Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest episode and the latest edition of The Customer Edge. My name is Butch Stearns, Chief Content Officer here at the Pulse Network. This show is coming to you live from our Pulse Network studios. The topic of this particular episode of The Customer Edge, sales success, making the right choices. Let me repeat that. Sales success, making the right choices. We're going to dive right into this topic. We've got special guests. I've got a lovely special co-host with me here in studio. But before we get to that, a quick reminder for those of you who are frequent visitors to this monthly live webcast, or if you're here for the first time, the Customer Edge Show is just that. It is a live monthly webcast that comes to you from our Pulse Network studios or sometimes remote. Next month, we're going to be in New York at CRM Evolution. But it's part of a larger community that you can find at custedge.com. Again, if you've been there before, you know what this community is all about. If you haven't been there, I encourage you to go to custedge.com. It's where you're watching this right now. It is a conversation hub and community for providing great customer experiences in sales, marketing, and customer service. Really what it is where you can explore insights, information, and ideas from experts around the globe and embrace the challenge, the ongoing challenge, the ever-changing challenge of engaging your customers in this new age. So that is the community, custedge.com. To follow the conversations in this show, use the hashtag CustEdge, CUSTEDGE. And if you're watching on our live player for the Pulse Network, you'll notice beside us where you're watching this video and below us, we have both all the visual presentations that we're presenting in this program, and down below we have chat functionality and polls where you can chime in on the show. So let's get it started without further ado. I bring in our lovely co-host. She is Shalini Mehta, Director of Product Marketing for SAP. Shalini, how are you?
Good, Butch. How are you? Thank you for having me today.
Oh, I'm excited to have you today because
I'm excited to be here.
I know you are. You are, aren't you?
I am. I have
So-
a lot to tell our audience.
Let's talk about this subject, sales success, making the right choices. Why are you so excited to talk about this today?
You know, as everybody knows, selling today is no longer a formula.
Right.
The customers are empowered. 57% of them are making buying decisions before they even engage with the salesperson. And that number is probably increased. Every day we're making choices. It's really not following a process. It's about, to be successful, it's making smart choices. How are you going to start your day? How are you going to motivate your team? What technology are you going to use? And as we know, technology is ever changing. And really about empowering sellers to deal with that empowered customer.
So let's talk a little bit more about, get a little deeper into the subject of the show. Sales success, making the right choices. In this show, we have 3 guests lined up that are going to bring different perspectives in all of it. Bob Kelly's going to join us, who is the chairman of an organization called Sales Management Association. So he's going to give us trends and industry overviews and insights. We're then going to have 2 guests Skyping in, Lou Reed from Bentley Systems and Rajiv Mishra, who's coming to us from Epson. They're going to give us 2 different perspectives, sales operations and sales management. So go a little deeper into the sales choices. When a salesperson wakes up every day, when a sales team starts their day, when they're at an event, an association, an organization, or trying to get a client, what are some of the specific choices they need to make?
Yeah, there's a lot of choices. We talked about, the time, the team, the technology. But like as a seller, do you invest time learning more about your customer or building your pipeline? As a manager, do you spend time fostering relationships or coaching? Do you, and as a leader, do you drive innovation into your sales organization, or do you try to adopt new processes? It's really what choices are going to make a right for your sales team.
Let's talk a little bit more before we get more specific. We're going to go into some recent research that SAP, you did with Harvard Business Review. By the way, this show, The Customer Edge, is sponsored by SAP and brought to you by SAP. And the community, Customer Edge, you can go there and find out more. When it comes, let's paint a picture of the empowered customer. You told me a personal story before the show, which I think says it all. I mean, we all are consumers. We're all customers. You and your family recently bought a new car, but I think it's a great story about how empowered we are as customers, right?
Yes.
And a salesperson that actually worked with you the right way, right?
Exactly. Well, whether you're buying a car, a pair of shoes, or researching vacations, we do all of our research online. We talk to peers. There's this whole concept of web rooming and showrooming, right? Where you're researching online, but you're buying in the store, or where you're researching in the store, but buying online. And we have so many choices as a customer today. And we recently, yes, we purchased a new Audi Q7. We researched the exact model we wanted. We knew what price we were willing to pay, and not a penny more, and all the bells and whistles that we wanted. So what did we do? We just called dealerships, found one that would match our price. We went in. So really for the salesperson, it was about showing us, all the features of the car, signing on the dotted line, taking our payment, we walk out, drive off the lot, and the relationship could have ended there. But instead, Michael, who sold us the car, he sat us down, he showed us the features, and he said, to me, I'm in this business not just to sell cars. I'm actually building a relationship with you. And I pledge to you that for the lifetime that you have this car, that I'm going to be there to answer any questions so that you are happy with your purchase. And, it struck a chord in me, because we are talking about this today with our customers, and how customers are empowered, and how as a company can you change how you interact with these customers. And here's a prime example where Michael, an Audi sales rep in Santa Monica, got it. And he knew it was about creating that connection. And to this day, we've had our car for a month. He continuously texts us and emails, checking on us, making sure that we're happy, any questions we have. We recently couldn't figure out how to open the gas tank. He was checked us right back. It was easier than we thought. But more and more companies that are closing better and winning more deals are those that really know the customer that they are interacting with.
So talk about evolving channels like social media.
Yes.
Let's go back to your example. You said that Michael's texting you and emailing you, but even before the sale, what channels did you use, and how, in general, are evolving channels like social media changing buyers' expectations?
Well, I think because there is so much information out there, social is being used. So for example, buying a car, you put out a Facebook post to your friends, hey, I'm looking at these two cars. Tell me what you think about them.
You get an instant poll.
Exactly,
from
right?
your references.
Exactly, and going out and looking at Yelp reviews and looking at Consumer Reports, seeing which is more reliable. We're going to have a teen driver in the car, in the family, and it's really important that we have a car that's safe. And so we wanted to do safety ratings. And so by the time we made our decision, and this is again before we engaged a salesperson, we in our mind already knew what we wanted. Now that salesperson, like I said, it's just about signing on the dotted line. But what they could have also done was they could have broke the sale, right? If we engaged with the person and he was the typical salesman that we all were used to be scared about, kind of with the devil horns, and they take you into a room, they lock you in, and they wait until you basically say, "Mercy, I'll buy it. Just let me get out of this room." I think now, he understood that it was about a relationship, and he was knowledgeable more than I was, obviously, and that's the expectation that you have.
So really, he started by building a relationship of trust. I want to cite a stat that we talked about in the preview of the show. The Edelman Trust Barometer in 2014 says that 82% find peers the most trusted source. That sort of amplifies everything you're just talking about.
Exactly. I mean, we are more apt to trust our social network, our peer group, than we are to trust a salesperson. Because like I said, there is a connotation with salespeople that they're just going to push products and technology. In fact, I recently saw another stat from Gartner that said 74% of executive buyers felt that salespeople spent too much time pushing products and technology. Customers want you to know who they are now. They no longer want a product or technology shoved down their throat. They don't want us to push, salespeople to push them through their sales funnel. What's really changing is the journey that customers are taking in purchasing products, technology, and that is they are constantly evaluating, right? There's multiple channels out there that they can use to get information, and they're getting information and they're making decisions, and as they're doing that, it's what it is it's really important that we help guide them through that journey.
Okay. You are watching The Customer Edge. My name is Butch Stearns of the Pulse Network. Shalini Mehta of SAP is alongside. Sales success, the choices that you need to make. Making the right choices is the subject of this show. Shalini, before we bring in Bob Kelly, let's do a couple of things. Let's talk about the Harvard Business research that you recently did with Harvard Business Review, SAP. And really what it is a guide to winning at sales in a buyer-empowered world. All this picture you just painted about empowered customers. Talk about this research, the value of it, how it came about, and what are some of the key points about this?
Well, what we're finding is, 60% of sales organizations say that rising customer expectations are their number one challenge. It's what we said. Customers expect more today. And how do companies rise to meet that challenge? And, what do you need? What technology, what processes you need to put in place to really engage with that empowered customer? And it really is about, there's a 4-step process. It's about targeting the right customers. It's about discovering what they need, what they want, guiding them through the process, and then winning and closing the deal, but then continue down that process to create loyal advocates and loyalists, because really those are the people that are going to help, as we heard before from the trust barometer, peers trust other peers, right? So if you have a loyalist, they're going to go out there and they're going to help promote your brand without you even having to do that.
So again, the importance of this Harvard Business Review research sponsored by SAP, it just came out in July.
It came out in July, yes.
Okay, you've got a great infographic that goes along with it that outlines it. I mean, on a show like this, it's a little busy to show, but we're going to show it because it does outline. Tell the importance of that. How does it break it down?
Well, really what it talks about is the challenges that sales is facing today, because now customers are empowered, right? We find that 50% of B2B sales staff miss their quotas. Why? Because they're really trying to push customers down their own sales funnel. And that no longer works. We talked about the journey has changed. The expectations have changed. The amount of information a salesperson is required to know has evolved, right? Because customers are informed, salespeople need to be even more informed. And it's really, how do you align the sales process and the customer? And there's, as I just mentioned, there's 4 steps, right? It's about targeting your customers, discovering what they need, guiding them through the process, and winning them. And then to be there, even at the end, through customer service and marketing, right? Providing that same experience that they had in the beginning of the cycle.
You should be a little bit more passionate about this.
Do I sound a little passionate? I am, because there's this is something that we as consumers, every day. I don't think I've ever walked into a store, unless I'm buying milk or cereal, and not done research, not done my homework. Right. From a pair of shoes to a car to even houses, you research the area. So I think this is a really important topic, and really want to share our perspectives in helping customers better align with the customer process.
She is Shalini Mehta of SAP. I'm Butch Stearns of the Pulse Network. Making the right choices for sales success is something that's fundamental at SAP. Bob Kelly is going to join us from the Sales Management Association momentarily. But before we bring Bob in, here is a video from SAP about that exact subject, making the right choices for sales success.
Choose to be a morning person. Choose agility. Choose clarity. Choose a point of view. Choose collaboration. Choose courage. Choose to be flawless. Choose partnership. Choose a winning team. Choose the things that matter. Life is all about choices. Choose a sales application that works the way you do. SAP Cloud for Sales. Engage to win like never before.
Sales success, making the right choices. That is the topic of this edition of the Customer Edge. Hi, everybody. Once again, I'm Butch Stearns of the Pulse Network. My co-hosts and our special guest now, Shalini Mehta of SAP, and we welcome in Bob Kelly from the Sales Management Association. Great to have you here, Bob.
Hi, thank you. It's great to be here.
Now, as you were coming in, you watched that SAP video, which was about all the choices a salesperson has to make on a daily basis. And one of the things I find interesting about that video is that long before we were talking about a salesperson choosing a sales application that's right for them, we talked about life choices, really, choosing mornings, choosing a point of view, choosing collaboration, choosing agility, and all these types of things. What resonated with you from that video, Bob?
Well, when I think about choices that affect the sales organization, I think mostly about the choices that management and leadership makes to direct salespeople. And I also think about the important choices that organizations make to enable and support their sales organizations. So these are big choices that involve a lot of different factors, a lot of change in the past 10 years. So that's really what I think about when I think about choices.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, you know, we're talking to customers, you know, 74% of there's poor adoption of technology and processes that are in place for sales. And a lot of that is because those are process driven, right? And as we saw in the video, we make choices every day. We wake up, we're with our kids, we need to plan our day, and how does technology work the way we do? And that's really the key to sales success.
So, Bob, as we talk about this subject today, sales success, making the right choices, talk a little bit more about SMA, your organization. I mean, really, as you were proud to say coming in here, we just met, it's an organization that's been long overdue, in your opinion, in the industry, hasn't it?
Absolutely. We serve two jobs fundamentally in our audience. We serve sales managers, as you might have surmised from our name, and we also serve sales operations. That is, the people who are really focused, mostly in larger companies, on sales productivity. And these are both very underserved jobs in terms of professional resources. I mean, we're just a very, sort of, I call it a ham and eggs professional association. We attempt to do the very basic things professional associations do: provide content, provide training, provide networking, and in general, advance the quality of the professions that we serve. So for whatever reason, there wasn't one before. I saw the need to start one, and we've been around now for about 4 years.
Great.
Yeah.
And being part of that organization, I mean, you've worked with a lot of companies, done a lot of research. You know, tell us a little about what are some of the larger trends that are affecting sales today?
Yeah, so the lens that I have in responding to a question like that is the management lens, right? So managers are worried, I think, fundamentally about at least a couple of things. I'd call out two things. The first is productivity. Yeah. So managers are looking to make sales organizations more productive. We know that just in the United States, we spend $900 billion annually on the sales organization. However, that number as a percentage of top-line revenue has gone up, not down, over the past 10 years, the same period of time, incidentally, that operating expenses have gone down significantly in the S&P 500. So we know leadership is looking at the sales organization as a place that has merited a lot of investment over the past 10 years, and despite a lot of productivity enhancing technology, has not necessarily reduced costs for many companies. Companies are continuing to invest in the sales organization as they look for productivity. So that's one thing. It's very important. The other is just managing change. There's so much new happening in the sales organization. It makes it a really fun place to be in the firm, if that's where you're working. And it means that managers are having to think about things differently now than they have in the past 2 years.
Well, if I could jump in real quick, but the pace of change, by the time this show is over, some things will have changed in sales, right? So how do you manage that?
Absolutely.
Or how does that affect the choices that you make?
Yeah, well, the pace of change is really important. And one thing that's driving that is just the availability of information on both sides of the table. Information for buyers, as you've pointed out, and also information that sellers have now. So, what we see, this might be a bit of a self-interested observation here, but we see a lot of firms finding that the first line sales manager is the best place to focus change management initiatives now, simply because they're best able to cope with the speed of change. They're a great locus of decision making inside the company for impacting how others behave, especially salespeople. And so that's one way I'd answer your question.
Yeah.
Companies are looking at first line management and saying, you're our first line of defense in managing all these changes.
And do you see a lot of those first line management providing guidance and coaching, to help increase the productivity of the sales force?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, part of the challenge is that salespeople have to act differently now. They have to behave differently. They have to literally do different things than they've done in the past. And managers can help affect that behavior change in a way that training really can't, nor can an edict from executive leadership. Managers really have to guide that change in behavior. So yeah, absolutely.
You are watching The Customer Edge. I'm Butch Stearns with the Pulse Network. Shalini Mita from SAP. Bob Kelly from the Sales Management Association is joining us. Our topic today, sales success, making the right choices. Bob, you talk about 1 in 7 salespeople are inside salespeople, and that inside sales roles are more effective in managing existing customers than cold calling or all that. Be more specific. What are we talking about with inside salespeople?
Yeah, inside sales is a hot topic right now. And we, in fact, recently did some research with SAP's support on this topic in response to some demand from our audience. And we found a number of things that represent what I would call out as the chief value of inside sales for organizations. Again, 2 things I'd point out. One is that inside sales provides great coverage in ways that other salespeople can't. Face-to-face sellers are simply not able to be on demand for customers that need them. And companies are finding great value from that by deploying inside salespeople against geographic assignments, market assignments, industry assignments, et cetera. The second thing is that inside sales really isn't a competing sales channel with outside sales. The chief value of inside sales as a channel is that it enhances the productivity of other channels. And we found this in the research that we did, that inside sales is a great complement to the sales organization as a whole.
And we're all, we're excited for this research to be coming out over the next month. But one of the things we're seeing is inside sales as an organization is growing at a fast pace and a fast rate, like 50% faster than most other organizations.
That's right. And we asked the question, among those respondents in our survey who are in fact growing inside sales, we asked why. What's the purpose? And that's where we learned that inside sales is making other sellers more productive, but also inside sales is a very cost-effective and productive sales channel in and of itself. So we see inside sales as a way to drive productivity and in fact reduce cost, everything else being equal, which then frees up investment to put other places in the sales organization. Often those are higher level resources.
And this SAP-backed sponsored research with SMA has yet to come out.
No, it hasn't come out. It'll be probably coming out in the next month. But we look forward to it. The other thing we're seeing is it's really important to define roles, right, with inside sales and to know what they're good at, how they can help the sales force be more successful and providing, set functionality. And like Butch mentioned earlier, they're not effective in cold calling, which is not. So I was actually surprised to see that in the research because I would think that's what inside sales does, is they are the first line of support for a customer to engage with. But they're actually great at nurturing customers. So, there's a lot of findings there I think that people aren't aware of, that inside sales can also be an asset to your organization, but it's really finding the right role for them within.
That's exactly right. I think that's a common, assumption about inside sales, just judging by how frequently they are assigned cold calling responsibility. It's the number one most frequently used criteria for assigning inside sales, but it's also one of the things they're not very good at. And
Bob,
perhaps no one is.
we're going to have you come back at the end of the show
Great.
and wrap up our takeaways from the guests we're about to have and all that you've talked about already. So let's finish up with Bob. A couple of quick things here. Go ahead, Sean. You make a couple
So,
points.
to switch gears a little bit, what do you think about social media? Is it good for selling?
I think social media is good for selling. I think about social media as a way of evening the scales. I mean, one thing you both have talked about is how buyers have more information and resultingly more power in the buyer-seller relationship. Well, social media can help equalize that a bit. I do think social media has some challenges that perhaps aren't talked about as often. I see social media being used in ways that are potentially harmful. I see organizations focusing on social selling almost as a way of replacing traditional face-to-face selling, and I think it's a lousy alternative to that. I think it can complement face-to-face activity, but it's no substitute for selling. In fact, I would almost say that the vast majority of firms use social media as a marketing tool. Marketing, almost by definition, is media related. What's different now is that salespeople can make decisions, marketing decisions, using social media to promote their brand, to gain access to buyers, for example. But along the way, I think organizations run the risk of what Nicholas Carr might call running the sales force aground in the shallows, namely relying on social media to simply spam people and with a superficial message that is not a substitute for real human interaction and relationships.
Sean, you agree with that it's not a substitute? Social media shouldn't be a substitute in sales. It should be a complementary piece of it.
Exactly. Well, I mean, I think sales at the end of the day, you still need that human interaction. You need that you need to nurture and foster that relationship. And social is a great way to start the conversation, but it is definitely not the end all be all. I think it's really important that it's used to reach out to customers, but you still need to follow up. You need that relationship building.
All right, Bob, we'll have you back at the end of the show. One final point about the research you've done with SAP, when it'll be out, or what people need to know at this point.
Yeah, our report is complete. It's not yet been released. We'll likely release that within 10 days. So you can find that on our website at salesmanagement.org, as well as sap.com.
All right, Bob Kelly from the Sales Management Association. Again, I'm Butch Stearns of the Pulse Network. You are watching The Customer Edge. Shalini Mehta of SAP is here also. Speaking of the impact of social media on selling, here are three industry experts with their thoughts on that particular subject.
One of the ways that social media has changed selling is it gives you other opportunities on ways to sell. I think it also gives you additional responsibilities in how you sell. To pick up the phone and call somebody and not at least have looked on LinkedIn to see if they're listed there, and if they are listed there, how long they've been with the company, what school they went to. I mean, they're just basic stuff. It's just price of admission now. It's a responsibility.
Selling is completely different because there's so much information out on the web that as much as 70% of buyers have already made up their mind what they're going to buy before they ever engage with a sales rep. So if a sales rep wants to have any chance of being differentiated from their competitors or actually winning a deal, they have to work harder to be smarter and more relevant and really understand the business issues of their prospects so that they can deliver meaningful solutions and have better business conversations.
There is no aspect of our lives where technology hasn't crept in and changed the way we live and thereby changing the way we work as well. So consumers are increasingly finding a voice and seeing that they can engage brands and have more of a dialogue rather than a one-way communication where they didn't have much choice in the past. So it's a pretty exciting time.
The opportunities for salespeople that take the time to understand the business issues and the relevant events that are affecting their prospects and customers help them differentiate from the other salespeople that aren't willing to take that time. And so when salespeople do that, then they can have much more meaningful business conversations with the right person at the right time.
The good news is that today most businesses have figured out social media, right? There's a reason to be on board. We've seen the maturity of social media platforms. So Facebook with over 1 billion monthly active users, for example. But now we're in a phase of the market where businesses need to operationalize how they're approaching social media and what they do with customer engagement along the way. So a lot of opportunities still out there. And the big question is, how do I incorporate what I'm doing in those channels with everything else I do behind the scenes as well?
People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And so it's like, what do you actually know about me? I get all these LinkedIn invitations, I'd like you to join my network. It's like, tell me one thing. 2 would be better, but tell me one thing that you know about me, about why we should be in a network together.
I mean, nobody likes to be sold. I can't stand to be sold, and nobody does. So when we talk about things like social selling, which we actually spend a lot of time at Inside View talking about social selling because it's kind of a buzz term, but at the end of the day, it's not really selling. It's really using social tools and social media to improve customer intimacy so that you can establish that trust and have better customer relationships.
From the business side, if you're a marketer and you're trying to figure out how to really make a social media channel matter, it's about tying it into and integrating with existing campaigns and existing business metrics and operations, right? So not just, am I getting a lot of likes and followers and fans, but what kind of sales am I driving? Am I showing a lift in customer acquisition? Am I getting better customer retention results? So that's the way to make social media relevant, is by tying it into metrics that matter.
Sales success, making the right choices. That is the topic of this edition of The Customer Edge, sponsored by SAP. I'm your co-host, Butch Stearns of the Pulse Network. My co-host for this episode is Shalini Mehta of SAP. We just watched a video about the impact of social media on selling. So the direct question to you, Shalini, how has social media affected the way you or your team sell?
Well, it's one of the choices that you make, right? Is when you're going to interact or engage with someone, know everything about them, like Barry Traylor said. It's really important to know your audience and know your customer. In fact, did some research on you when before we met. And I know that you're a Red Sox fan. Bruce Springsteen is one of your favorite singers, and you love Tom Brady. So, so it's really about knowing your customer. Okay. And I think social is a great vehicle to do that. Again, our $1 million deal is going to be closed via Twitter, via tweet. I don't know, still to be seen. But I think it can be used to leverage and really engage with your customers and to promote good branding.
Yeah, and relationships are going to be built in the customer's journey. You have an opportunity for multiple touch points to strengthen your relationship, your trust, to even start one and build one. And so by the time it comes to find out when that person is sales ready, you'll have a much better ability to know that, won't you?
Exactly. And there's an expectation these days that you do need to know who you're talking to.
Right.
Right? And customers demand that. And so I think social becomes important.
Well, thank goodness you only went that deep in researching about me, because I don't want the skeletons to come out. Speaking of people we know, or people that you know,
yes.
You have a long-term relationship with this person who is a sales professional, and continuing with the sales management perspective in this episode of The Customer Edge, Sales Success, Making the Right Choices, we now bring in Rajiv Mishra. He is the Vice President, North American Commercial Sales and Marketing at Epson America. Rajiv, welcome to The Customer Edge. We're really glad to have you on this episode.
Hey guys, good to see you.
Hi, Rajiv.
Hi,
How is
Sean.
sunny California?
California is great, nice and sunny, and maybe a little too warm out here right now.
Great. Well, thank you so much for being on the show today. You provide a wealth of knowledge when it comes to talking about choices that sales management needs to bring to their team to really engage with that empowered customer. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your role, what business unit do you run?
Sure. So I'm responsible for a number of Epson's commercial businesses. our projector division, our point of sale hardware division, and then our wearable technology group. So a wide variety of products, primarily B2B products.
Great.
And,
Well, I wish we had more time to talk about the wearables because I'm really curious as to the wearable market and where that's going today. But I know you wanted to talk about the projection systems. So, tell us a little bit about what is Epson's go-to-market strategy? How has it evolved over the last 5 years?
Sure. So in the projector business, we are the dominant player out there. And our main focus over the last 5 years has really been to penetrate some key markets: small and medium business, education, home entertainment, and house of worship. And we've been really focusing over the next 5 years, how do we crack corporate in a deeper and a more profound way? And if you look at how we've gone to market the last 5 years, it's been very partner-led. We've got AV integrators and installers all around the country that have really been the trusted advisors to our customers, where they get pulled in really early in the process, and they're informing, on the various technologies and products that are out there. They're educating. They've been providing, evaluation units. They've talked about how do we go and install and integrate, and ultimately they service and support. And we've really grown our business thanks to these great partners that have been with that customer from the very beginning all the way to the very end. But as we look forward and as we think about that enterprise customer, we're finding that their behavior is very different. They know a lot more than they did 5 years ago, and they bring in that AV specialist far later in the process and far later in the journey than we are accustomed to.
Right. So Rajiv, they've done all their homework. They've talked to other companies. They are coming to you probably already when they're close to buying.
Absolutely. We believe 60 to 70% of the decision has already been made before they even pick up the phone and call their VAR. So they're far more educated today than they were 5 years ago.
Great. So, they're educated. How do you now engage with that new empowered customer? What choices are you making in management to help drive your organization to be better informed and to engage early on in the process before they're making their buying decisions?
Well, first of all, sales and marketing today at Epson is working in a very different way than they did 5 years ago. In the past, the marketing guys focused on getting the product roadmaps right, launching the product, getting the pricing, putting together the collateral sheets, and really throwing them over the wall to the sales team. And sales would go run with that information and work through the partners and sell product. Fast forward 5 years, the partnership between sales and marketing is intertwined. And in fact, I tell my marketing guys, their job is not just to market their product, but it's to enable the sales team to be successful selling to their customers. And as a result of that, we've got to understand that end customer far better, far deeper than we ever have had to before.
Let me jump in and ask you a question. What are some of the choices that you need to make to do this, to get marketing and sales continuously integrated as opposed to them being on islands? It's something we live here at the Pulse, I know, every day, but what are some of the choices that sales managers can make to help foster that?
Well, what we've done here at Epson is we have brought in the sales managers and the marketing managers together, and we've started to educate them about these customers, where they are when a partner ultimately connects with them. And our sales teams are starting to realize, whoa, that customer is way down the funnel before we're even getting engaged. And they're asking the marketing guys, what can you do to help us to connect with that customer early on? And as such, the marketing folks are doing a lot of research on the customer, trying to get in their heads way early in the process before the product is even launched.
Traffic. It's true, right? We do. We need to get into their customers' heads. In fact, we need to get in there and plant seeds and guide them, right? And it sounds like you guys are doing the right thing to really try to engage with those customers before they're making their buying decisions.
Absolutely. And before we even engage, we have to internalize them. And we have to understand, they're not just the company they work for, but the vertical market they're in, what's going on in that vertical market from an industry dynamic perspective. What are the priorities of these businesses? If you ask a CEO or CFO what's keeping them up at night, what are they thinking about? Yep. And then translating that down to, the pain points. And ultimately, we're working towards how do you profile these different type of buyers so that when the sales teams or the partners go in, they really have a good sense of who they're talking to.
That makes
Far
sense.
more research early on than we've done in the past.
So, knowing that now you need to visualize the customer and you need to know who that customer is and what they want, what are you putting in place? What choices are you making with tools or activities or processes that's helping leverage and give you that stronger view of the business and the customer?
Now, great question. We've recognized that the marketing toolbox that we've used needs to get a lot bigger. And there are many more tools and vehicles that can be used to connect with this customer through their journey. So given that, we have been focusing on making sure that the sales and marketing teams understand the different stages of the customer journey, whether it's building awareness, educating, or driving to purchase. And we work to put ourselves in the shoes of that customer and say, okay, if I'm, customer X, and I'm looking for a projector for my conference room, what am I going to do? Where am I going to go? What am I going to search for on Google? And we try to map that and start, developing content that will engage with them no matter where they are in that process. And what we found is you got to have a content factory these days. You've got to be thinking about developing all sorts of content. It's not just the advertising or the videos, but it's the slideshows that are on SlideShare. It's the webcasts that are building awareness for your product. It's the testimonials or the case studies or the white papers. But the marketing teams have got to enable the sales teams by creating more air cover and hitting that customer, regardless of where they are in the process.
Right, and you find that, you have a process in place, but you always have to be altering your course or the journey that you're going on because the engagement with the customer might change, right? And things evolve and how you deal with customers change. So how are you doing that?
So what we're doing there is we are spending a lot more time understanding those interactions that the partners are having with the customers or our sales folks. And in real time, I call it, we're course correcting. We're finding what tools are working, what are generating more leads, what aren't. Let's shift the mix in real time, put more energy behind what's working. What conversations are working between our sales folks and our customers? And if there's certain conversations that are working, let's make sure every sales rep knows what those best practices are. So it's continuous refinement and adjustment through the whole process. You can't stand still. You got to keep moving in real time.
I hear you. I mean, it's just the way of the world, right? Things are constantly evolving as more information's out there. So what's next for you at Epson? Where do you see your next level of engagement going? What are some things you're working on?
So I would say around the projector business, we are really focused on addressing the needs for collaboration, just like we're doing today over Skype. And given that it's a big market, there's a lot of verticals, we're really getting the sales and marketing teams to tighten up how we go to market and deliver some really exciting product solutions around collaboration to enterprise. And we're going through training. We've got to relearn everything we've learned thus far around marketing and sales, and we've got to transform the organization to be better. And then we're looking at different markets. For example, with my wearables group, we've got these really cool head mount displays, similar to Google Glass. And we're finding interesting opportunities in the B2B space. So we've got to go understand that customer and figure out how to insert ourselves in that conversation and grow the business. It's a really exciting time.
So Rajiv, one final question from me, if you will. So you've painted a great picture of what's going on inside Epson. You dominate the market, yet you're doing anything but standing still. You've brought in partners and you bring them at the right time as a trusted source to help you with this. You're focusing on redefining the sales and marketing relationship and continually doing that, as Shalini said, in a pace of change that's ongoing, so you always have to be correcting and always doing that. How about the daily basis? What are some of the, as a takeaway, what are some of the choices that you need to do to affect all of this on a daily basis when you get into work every day, or you and your team?
One of the key choices we're making right now is continually educating the sales and marketing organizations about the new way of doing business. It's not one of those things where you bring in a guy and you have a seminar and you're done. It's continuous reinforcement. We've got to change old behavior and get a very large sales and marketing organization pointed in this new direction. And that takes a lot of reinforcement, a lot of support to get them there. I'd say in addition to that, we are getting our sales management organization to move away from managing through a dashboard, which is very typical. You look at your revenues, you look at your activities, and you make decisions based on that. And given this new world of selling, we're really training and pushing the sales team to go deeper and to leverage that qualitative insight that's out there in the market with the customers, bring that back in. And it's not just about dashboard management anymore. It's you got to listen and you got to hear and you got to adjust and make sure the organization is following. But it's a transformation.
Well, Rajiv, thank you so much. I mean, everything you're saying is what we just talked about the trends that we're seeing, the struggles that companies are having with engaging with their customer. And it sounds like at Epson, you guys have figured out the right approach, and you're constantly evolving your process, which is key to any success, is key to sales success at any company. So thank you again for being on the show.
Thank you. You guys take care.
Rajiv Mishra from Epson, great interview because we get some insight into the way Epson thinks and really right to the meat of the subject of this show, sales success, making the right choices. They're already successful. They're at the top of the market, but they're not stopping.
But exactly, you know what's I think the key to continue to make them successful is they didn't just define a process and just stopping right there. They know that it's an evolving process and you constantly have to look at what you're doing to see if it matches what the market is doing. And I think they have the vision and insight in doing that today.
All right, Rajiv Mishra from Epson with his sales management perspective on our topic today on the Customer Edge, sales success, making the right choices. When we come back, we will be joined with the sales operations perspective, and that'll be Lou Reed from Bentley. Before that, though, here is a Customer Edge sponsored My 5 with the 5 phases of the customer journey. You know, marketers have long recognized that a purchase is far more than a single solitary event. It's just one point along the consumer decision journey. And each stage of that journey might be experienced in a matter of moments, or it could take years to complete. Here are 5 phases of the customer journey from Eric Hazen, principal at McKinsey & Company. I'm Butch Stearns, and this My 5 is brought to you by the Customer Edge. Phase number 1, consideration. Consumers assemble an initial set of brands and retailers to consider. Digital has given new options, forever changing how, where, and when consumers shop. The diverse set of channels have given brands new and effective ways of interacting with and influencing their customers, close to real time as those customers embark on their decision journeys. Phase number 2, evaluation. The consideration set evolves and preferences emerge as the shopper gathers information from a variety of online and offline sources. Consumers rely heavily on digital channels as they research products on their way to making a decision. Augmented reality can allow online shoppers to test products virtually by remotely wearing a wristwatch. And radio frequency identification technologies can provide a seamless in-store shopping experience, offering short videos on products as consumers walk by. Phase number 3, purchase. The shopper selects what to buy, where to buy it, and how to take delivery. Today, multiple channels make up the end-to-end shopping journey. Having an omni-channel presence is imperative to facilitate the buying process for your customer. The 4th stage of the buyer's journey is experience. The new product owner reacts to the purchase and interacts with the product and the brand. Consumers have an appetite for brand offers tailored to their interests through a seamless experience across channels. And increasingly, they expect a seamless multi-channel purchasing pathway. The 5th stage is loyalty. After owning the product, consumers decide whether or not to select the same product or the same brand again. The growing influence of digital retail channels is changing both the ways companies sell their products and the expectations of the consumers who buy them. Those were Eric Hazen of McKinsey & Company's 5 stages of the consumer decision journey. I'm Butch Stearns, and this My 5 is brought to you by the Customer Edge. Welcome back. You are watching The Customer Edge. In this episode, we are talking about sales success and making the right choices. I'm Butch Stearns of the Pulse Network. Alongside is Shalini Mehta of SAP. Very active show so far.
It
A
is.
lot of different input, huh?
You know what I love is we started out with the trends that we're seeing, talked about, the research that Bob Kelly's seen at SMA, just talked to Rajiv Mishra at Epson to get the sales management perspective of what they're doing to drive their vision to their sales and marketing team. And very excited to bring Lou Reed on the show, who's VP of Sales Operations at Bentley Systems, to give us a sales operation perspective. Welcome, Lou.
Hey, good morning.
How are you?
I'm great. How you all doing today?
We are doing great. You have some sun behind you, which is nice.
I do. It's nice and sunny in northern New Jersey, New York area.
That is great. Well, thank you for joining us. Lou, we have been working together, and I'm very excited to have you on the show to really give us a perspective. We've been talking, here on the show about choices that sales has to make today. And we've gotten the sales management perspective, and you being VP of Sales Operations would really love to understand, tell us a little bit about your role at Bentley Systems and how you've seen the sales operations role evolve over the last 17 years.
Yes, thank you. So at Bentley, we're a software company that provides software for designing, operating, and constructing the world's infrastructure. And in sales operations at Bentley, my job and responsibility is to provide sales enablement, sales effectiveness, provide the appropriate selling methodologies and tools and learning to enable our sales force. So how I've seen it change over the years at Bentley anyway, in terms of sales operations, we went from a sort of back office mentality, just supporting order processing, order entry, optimizing that to make it easier to book the business, to we then became more, when the days of CRM evolved for us, we became more of a technology, sort of a super help desk on how to use the CRM technology, to now today where we're really focused on proactively providing sales enablement, sales effectiveness solutions to our sales force.
Lou, what's changed in selling today? I know that's a very broad question, but you're a sales veteran from the sales operation perspective. We're talking specifically on this show about making the right choices. You've been doing that your whole career with teams, but what has changed with selling today? What are the biggest changes that are affecting what you and Bentley do on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, so lots of things have changed, but again, there's that old saying, the more things change, the more they stay the same. And I think some of your other guests today sort of talked about that especially the gentleman from SMA. I heard talk about how important face-to-face selling is, and social selling is really not a replacement to that. It's sort of a an adjunct, if you will, addition to that. So what I've seen at Bentley and in our business is technology plays such a big role. I mean, if you go back to the beginning, almost the beginning of time, when the phone, imagine when the phone was invented by Alexander Bell and how that changed how selling was done. It went from a handshake and a face-to-face interaction to you could actually conduct business over the phone. Well, today, fast forward, we have all sorts of technology that enable that relationship, enable that contact. But at the end of the day, it's just it's another tool to take advantage of to really do all the same fundamental things that are required in the selling process, and that's build relationships and providing a good value proposition and building trust between prospective buyer and vendor.
And Lou, how are you at Bentley Systems? How are you enabling your sales force to be more productive? How are you empowering them?
Yeah, so we have a motto this year called "Completing the Reach." Is our sales theme for the year in the company, and what that means is we're extending the reach of all the technology out to our user and client base, but internally in our sales operations group with our field sales force, we're also extending the reach. And we're doing that by really enabling our technology and bringing it mobile. So we're doubling down on mobile solutions. We're taking advantage of the cloud for sales that SAP offers is a great part of that solution in terms of our mobile offering and the way we're extending the reach. And our idea is that we provide our sales force with the right information at the right time, any place, and mobile and doubling down on mobile allows us to do that.
That's great. I mean, we're definitely seeing devices playing a key role. Earlier in this segment, we saw a video about the choices that sales has to make and how they go through their day. And so being mobily accessible to the information, and like you said, having information at the right time when you need it is key. In addition to mobile, what about, what else has driven the productivity at Bentley? How does big data and insight and analytics play into that?
Well, that's a great question. And in this world of big data, for us, it's all about knowing as much as we can about our users to be able to provide the best service that we can possibly provide to them and tell them of things that we can provide before they might even realize that they have a potential offering they could take advantage from us to solve a particular business need. Big data gives us the opportunity to do that. Advanced analytics gives us the ability to do that. Fortunately, at Bentley, we've had great analytics and great data to provide to our sales folks and thus provide to our users to solve their problems. We're pretty extensive there, and we've been able to take advantage of that. And that's only going to get more important. I mean, data, think about this. In this world we live in, it's not about less data. It's not going to get less. It's not going to stay the same. It's going to increase, and it's our ability to be able to view and consume that increased data and then interpret it and analyze it in a way that we can provide the best value to our clients is what's important to our sales force.
Yeah, I think that is the challenge, and it sounds like you're embracing it, that big data is here to stay, but it's really how you leverage it, right? It's how you leverage the insight and analytics you get from big data and provide it in that consumable format for your sales team to really be able to leverage in engaging with your customers. In prior conversations that you and I've had, you said something to me that really resonated, and that is what your goal at Bentley System, what your role is really to add more sales time into your sales team's day. And that is key, right? Because our time is limited. And again, this is the theme of the show. What choices do you make in your day to be more productive, to engage better? So tell us a little bit more about that, about how you really are adding more sales time into your salesperson's day.
No, we have talked about that a lot in the past, and thank you for bringing that up. That is what I think my role as a sales operations VP is to add more selling time back into their day. So we do that by improving processes, administratively, but also offering some self-serve options that allow them to get things quicker and faster than they could previously. An example that comes to mind is there's a company called Sava that has a nice automated, mobilely enabled proposal automation tool. So we took that particular tool and we're able to take what used to be over an hour to generate a proposal, and we're able to get it down into like a 5-minute window. And that brings in all the legal T's and C's, and you need all the marketing material to describe the offering, all the pricing that needs to be involved, all the specifics on the particular user and their environment. And we're able to do that in 5 minutes. We just save 55 minutes of their day from how they were previously doing it. So to me, that's what we need to be doing with technology, and that's the choice we make in sales operation. And it boils down to return on time invested, and we're trying to optimize that. And if we, at the end of the day, if we do that, I think we've done our job in sales operations.
Definitely, we could all use some more time back in our day. I know I could. Your role is in sales operations, but you've been in sales a long time. Just to summarize, what have you seen? Has sales really changed the way we sell today than what we did yesterday in your view and what you've seen over the past few years?
No, the fundamentals of selling, I think, is been in place a long time. It hasn't changed. I think what's changed is the technology and how we apply it and how we use it to conduct the fundamental principles of selling. I mean, at the end of the day, people buy from people. And I learned that a long time in my career. So it's all about relationship building. I mean, this social selling approach is really about building relationships and knowing more about. I heard you in talk about how you did a little research, and through social media, and that's only to build a relationship, and that was true whether you had social media available to you today or social selling today. But it was important 20 years ago. You just did it a different way. So it's all about relationships. It's all about people buying from people. And that to me hasn't changed. That's fundamental selling.
Lou, thank you so much. I agree. Sales is still about selling relationships, and it's about the people-to-people interaction. And that's always going to be key and first priority. And it sounds like at Bentley, you guys have really hit the nail on the head. So thank you so much for taking the time today and providing us your insight and what you're doing at Bentley Systems. And we look forward to talking with you again soon.
Well, thank you, and thank you for inviting me. I enjoyed it.
Lou Reed from Bentley Systems. I'm Butch Stearns of the Pulse Network alongside with Shalini Mita from SAP. A reminder that you are watching The Customer Edge, and this live monthly webcast is part of a larger community at custedge.com. There it is right there. Embrace the future of customer engagement. It's a conversation hub and community for providing great customer experience in sales, marketing, and customer service. It's a place, quite honestly, where you can explore insights, information, and ideas from experts around the globe and embrace the challenge, the ever-changing challenge, the challenge that the pace just continues to stay ahead of us, to keep up with it, the challenge of engaging customers in this new age. So again, it is custedge.com. This show, The Customer Edge, is brought to you from our Pulse Network studios. And it's time now, on our final segment, to bring Bob Kelly back from Sales Management Association and sort of wrap up all the things we've learned. Well, that's a little bit of an overwhelming task because we can't repeat the entire show. So I'll take a stab at it and throw out a couple of things that I think really resonated with me and get comments from you guys. So let's start with the first one, and let's just go in the order of the show. Let's go, we'll come back to you, Bob. Let's go with Rajiv. From a sales management perspective, one of the things I thought he talked about was continually educating his sales force. He said at the end of that whole interview, that's one of the things he does on a daily basis. What does that mean? How does that apply to our audience, no matter what industry they're in?
I mean, I think it's key. We put processes in place, but they are not final, right? You need to constantly reevaluate those processes and to see what is working today. Is my message resonating to that customer today? Because tomorrow it might change. And if you aren't evolving, then you stagnate. And then you lose customers. So I think it's really important to keep looking at what you're doing to engage your customers and making sure that test it to see if it is meeting the needs.
Good. I think there's a lot of innovation related to education in sales organizations, and I think that because we're asking salespeople to do things differently, we're asking managers to manage differently. We really have to think differently about how we educate and develop talent in both those labor pools within organizations.
How do you, let me put you on the spot, Bob, how do you with SMA try to continually educate your audience, your members, your association? Give us one how-to, or maybe one thing you focus on.
Well, I mean, I can tell you one of the things I do as a sideline, I'll choose to answer your question, not based on my role at the association, but based in my role as I teach a class at Emory's Business School in Atlanta, at the Goizueta Business School. And educators in academia, specifically, and also more broadly, in the commercial economy, are thinking about how to deliver training in bite-sized ways, on demand, and at the location where it has the greatest impact, close to the customer and close to the desired behavior that you want to influence.
Okay.
So that can be done with video, it can be done with technology, it can be done using mobility.
Let me throw out another takeaway out there. We had Lou Reed on from Bentley, and one of the things he preached throughout it that you got him to get right onto at the end was adding more selling time to his people. And I think the way he answered that question was going back to the fundamentals, that the fundamentals of sales are more important than ever. The tools are changing, the opportunities are changing to engage and touch points, yet that makes the fundamentals more important than ever. Explain that a little bit more.
I think he really did say it right. It really is. There's so many things in your day that you could distract you, and where do you choose to spend your time? Are you targeting the right leads? So are they primed? It's about warm selling and not cold calling anymore, right? It's using the social network to your advantage, and it's really about being more productive in how you're using the tools and how you're adapting that in your day-to-day work.
What do you take from that, Bob? Well, I mean, the fundamentals are always the fundamentals in sales, but do you have more opportunities as a sales manager today to go back to the fundamentals and use them?
No, I think you have the opposite. I think you have fewer opportunities in number to engage in the traditional ways of establishing relationships person to person. And what I think that means is that sellers really have to make the very most of the fewer opportunities that they have in front of buyers. That puts a lot of pressure on how they behave, puts a lot of pressure on organizations to enable those great conversations with information and with content.
All right, so let's finish up with one thought each from the both of you, and I'll ask you both the same question. We posed it off the top of the show. Sales success, making the right choices. What's one thing that you both learned today in this show, or one thing you want to reinforce that was reinforced to you about that specific subject in question? Making the right choices on a daily basis, on a larger basis. Shalini, let's start with you. What is one thing that you learned in this show or got reinforced to you?
Well, I think definitely the reinforcement part is customers are empowered today. They are better informed. They're digitally connected. And what's really key is companies can't ignore that. And companies need to embrace that and educate their sales force, define the roles appropriately, when they're engaging with their customers. And it's really important that they are not pushing customers down their sales process or their sales funnel. And like Rajiv said at Epson, it's really about the different stages of their funnel, but it's not a funnel because there's constant engagement with customers through various channels. Whether a customer walks into your store or purchase something online or calls a customer service rep, all they care about is the experience that they're getting is the same. Seamless experience across channels. And they don't care who they're talking to. And I think what's key here are companies like Bentley Systems and like Epson are realizing that they need to put in the processes and technology in place in order to have better conversations, create better relationships with their customers.
One final thought, one takeaway. Bob Kelly, Sales Management Association, your thought on sales success, making the right choices that came out of this show for you.
You know, it's made me think about where choices are made in organizations. We've learned that companies can now influence through the use of enabling technology how sellers behave in the field in ways that they couldn't before. So the folks at headquarters can now make decisions and choices that really profoundly impact how people sell. On the other side, people in the field now have access to tools that can enable them to essentially act like their own marketing department. Chief among them is social media. So I think what that means is that where these choices are made are sort of relocating from the field to the head office. And I think organizations need to anticipate how to develop people to make good choices there. I'll throw in a bonus.
Bonus takeaway. I like
Bonus
this.
takeaway. This one is at no charge. This one, it relates to the first. It's about social media. You know, it's essentially that social media can't substitute for the old-fashioned face-to-face relationship building that is not superficial, that is in fact has depth and meaning to it. But it can enhance that.
Great.
I want to add one more thing. Sorry, since he got one, I get one too, don't I?
Uh-oh.
I think the roles of even sales and marketing, you know, as Rajiv talked about, how the lines are blurred now, that there isn't, you're not working in silos. And it kind of goes back to my multiple touch points when customers are engaging with you. But really sales and marketing working together is important, and aligning those processes. And it's important today, you know, ever than before. So.
Shalini Mitra from SAP, Bob Kelly from Sales Management Association. Great spending time with you guys today.
Great
Likewise,
job.
thank you,
Yeah.
Butch.
This has been the latest episode of The Customer Edge. We thank you for being a part of the conversation. We thank our guest, Lou Reed from Bentley, VP of Commercial Marketing and Business Development for Epson, Rajiv Mishra. Lou Reed is the VP of Sales Operations at Bentley Systems. And we thanks to our producer, Kyle McNaught, Teddy Myers and Jeff Hennessy behind the scenes contributing to the show. We thank you for being a part of the Customer Edge, and don't forget to visit custedge.com for the on-demand content and for the next show, which, by the way, comes to you live Monday, August 18th from CR Evolution, their annual event in New York. Looking forward to that. Great spending time with you guys.
Thanks for having us.
See you next time on the Customer Edge.